Come on by and have a bite at the Crossroad Diner, the place where your spirit goes when it might be time to change direction. We have a guest today at the very front of their career who's already been in the diner a few times. Let's hear what she has to say. Welcome into the Crossroad Diner. This is your host, Steve McCurdy, and Brooke Meindl is with me today. Brooke was in a project that we did this summer where we made a short film as part of a training course for filmmaking. Welcome to the Crossroad Diner.
Well, thank you for having me.
Brooke, tell us a little bit about where you are right now in your life, and what some of your aspirations are.
Well, I just graduated college in May, and to be honest, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. When I graduated, I was only 20 years old, and it's like, I can't even buy a legal drink. Why do you want me to decide what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? You know, it was just so crazy. And I ended up meeting Kathy and Hani at South Georgia Film Festival a couple months prior to the summer. And they were like, well, we're putting on this film camp. You should come work for us and come work for the Boys and Girls Club. So I was like, okay, I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. And we put on the Buick Special, and I got to teach all these high schoolers, you know, what goes on, you know, on a set. And I think I really found my passion.
Let me interrupt you a second.
Okay.
We're a little bit of a delay here, but we'll make it work. Tell me what you studied in school, and then tell everybody about who Hani and Kathy are and that whole thing.
Yeah, so I studied a BFA in mass media. So I did a lot of journalism stuff. I was on our local news station as a reporter, and we did a lot of directing and storytelling and script writing. We kind of got to dabble in all sorts of media types. And then Kathy and Hani, they own Cinevantage and Philanthro Films, and they also are starting a film academy in Quitman, Georgia. And we just opened up our South Georgia Film Office, which is kind of like a hub for all of your filmmaking needs. So we try to get productions down here, and we provide them with resources, you know, catering, transportation, and crew, most importantly.
Right. And that's one of the purposes of the training program in the summer, is to develop crew in the local area.
Oh, well, two of our students actually went to work on a holiday Lifetime movie being filmed in Tifton a couple weeks ago.
It's cool. And they got that job before the camp was even over, as I understand.
Yes, they did. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was. You were about to tell us what part in that project interested you most and what you kind of fell in love with, and finish that thought.
Yeah, so I really think I found my love for cameras. I used to do acting. I started when I was 13. I did film acting. I actually studied at New York Film Academy and New York Conservatory for Dramatic Arts for all of my summers in high school. I was totally into musical theater, thought I was going to be the next Broadway star. And then I fell in love with film, with how, you know, stories are made. And, you know, this past summer, I really think I found my passion for directing and, you know, being behind the camera. And, you know, I think that's something that I really want to be a part of. Like, just get me on a set as quick as you can. That's my motivation now.
So what caused you to go into mass media when you went to college?
So I auditioned for the musical theater program at VSU. I took literally 4 months of dance, and I can't dance to save my life. And I didn't get in. I was so upset. Like, I really thought, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life now. Like, it's over. And I had thought about going into mass media because I thought, well, if I can know what goes on behind the camera, I could be such a better and more well-rounded actor. And somebody was like, no, you need to do musical theater. So I went and auditioned and didn't get in. And that no was the best no that I could have ever heard in my life, because I was like, well, I'll just go to mass media then. And I fell in love with filmmaking, the production side of everything, directing. I loved it.
So you were everywhere on the set, and you were doing a lot of technical tracking, and you were part of the big part of the behind the scenes video production that was going on with that at the same time,
Yes.
which did give you a lot of autonomy and the opportunity to kind of tell your own story visually. And it sounds like that really lit you up.
It did. I loved it. I loved being able to kind of manipulate the story and show sides of, what we did this past summer that no one else got to see, but, these kids and the crew members. And I loved being able to showcase that through media.
What you've just said was that you had this thing in your mind and you went for it and you didn't get it. And so you looked around for something to fill that void, and you were disappointed. And then you were very surprised because you say it was the best no that you've ever gotten. How do you recommend young folks in your position who are going into a field that's very competitive and there are only a few slots? How do they stay open to that and willing to, because you struggled with, no, I need to stay with the thing that I was thinking about. How did you fight that battle between determinedly staying with what you wanted and then being open to something else being great?
I mean, it's not easy hearing no, in every single industry, and especially in the entertainment industry, you hear no 99% of the time. And sometimes it can, be hard to stay, encouraging of yourself and confident. Like, you have so much self-doubt. Like, I still have self-doubt, but you can't let that one no determine your entire life. The cliche saying, one door closes and two other open. But it is so true. Like, you may think you have your whole life planned out, like, I'm going to do this and this, but 99% of the time that doesn't happen. Like, you're going to hear no. You're going to have, times where, you're not going to get the part. You're not going to get that job. And, you just have to stay self-motivated and have a lot of self-confidence and self-worth. And I personally believe that believing in yourself is the first step into being successful in anything.
I agree with that completely. And I thank you for bringing that up, because one of the things that's happened with you is because you were at the crossroads and Hani and Kathy invited you to come play, you have had a world of opportunity because you're working for the studio film office for Brooks County, and you see all the projects that you guys are trying to become a part of. And you also see all of the stuff that's behind the scenes and getting things to start to begin with. It must be giving you a really comprehensive perspective on what it takes to get a film made.
Yeah, and it's a lot. Like, there are so many things that you don't think about when it goes into making a film, money being the main thing, but, you have to think about transportation, locations. And at that location, okay, where's the crew gonna, set up and hang out? Parking, food for the crew every single day, just like tiny and so much tedious things that you would never think goes into a film. And that's what, I've kind of been learning here. I've only been working here for like 3 weeks, but from like the past 3 weeks, I have picked up and learned so much. I'm like, wait, you have to do that and get this to make a movie here? Like, it's just insane, the amount of stuff that you have to have.
It's amazing that anything ever gets made, really, given how many obstacles there are, let alone the money.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like, it must be nice to have a multi-million-dollar film But I'm like, oh my gosh, so much stuff goes into that. And you think, how does that even happen? With just like this, some of the stuff that I've been seeing, I'm like, I don't know how movies have been made all these years.
When we had we had several big on location days this summer. One of them was downtown with a bunch of extras. And you kind of made the point that they have to have a place to be when they're not on camera. And that was also one of the hottest days in a South Georgia history. So we had to have a lot of water around. We had to have a shade because also the car that we were using in order to get it to go the right speed had to be pushed by 3 people instead of driven. So there was just so much that went into that long day. That's about what, a minute and a half on camera.
Maybe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a day when we were in a scene together in the drive-in sequence, and you were in the car next to me. And you want to tell the story of the little visitor that came to that car and what you did?
Oh, yeah. So that was really one of the hottest days, too. I think all the days were really hot, but that day we were dressed up in 1950s dresses. And me, one of the other Vistas, and one of the other little film camp students, we were all in this little scene together in the car. And we were just hanging out in it, like goofing off. And I look up and Ashley pulls the visor down and a frog jumps out. So I jump from the driver's seat to the back seat and roll out the door. And everybody's laughing at me, but I'm like freaking out because like I was thinking it was a lizard because I'm terrified of lizards. And I'm like, I'm going to leave y'all behind. Like y'all are on your own.
Yeah, I was in the car next to you, and it's hard enough to get out of a seat into the back seat of a 1950s era car to begin with, but from the driver's seat with the steering wheel in your lap, it's even. I don't know how you did that, but it was yeah, and maintain modesty throughout it all. That was quite a feat. We all had a laugh at your expense.
It was a long day.
Yeah, we had a lot of long days and uncomfortable days because it was, low budget shooting. We had a huge crew because everybody was training, so we had a lot of support. But tell me one of your biggest takeaways from we shot a movie that was about 30 minutes, and we got it done in, I think it was like 12 shooting days. What did you come away from that thinking?
A lot of things. Definitely the main one being wearing sunscreen. But, I think besides wearing sunscreen, I really saw like so much being put into this film by every single person on the set. No matter how small your job was, like I was the script supervisor. And even though it's not necessarily the greatest, most exciting job ever, you're just writing file names down from each shoot or each, take, but you're still involved. And I love seeing everybody come together for the greater good of this film and working together. Although it was really, really hot, although your job may not be, getting to hold the camera or getting to be in front of the camera, everybody kept such a great attitude and morale up, even though our conditions were not the greatest. It's a low budget film. Everybody wanted to be there and work together, to make this movie. And I think that was when I realized, this is what I love to do. And this is reassuring me. This is why I love what I do, because everybody was there for the greater good of the film.
Where you are now, you are in a really great position to be a part of the productions that come to South Georgia. Mm-hmm. Georgia is one of the most production-rich states in America. It's very supportive of film, but most of it's happening in Atlanta, and a little bit of it's happening out here. And we're all trying to make Quitman, Valdosta, and South Georgia another center. but
Yes.
you have the ability because you're sitting right. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. We'll get back to that in a second. Did you get a chance to see how in the edit process, how important all those notes of yours were?
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. That literally saves you days, even weeks, depending on how big your movie is.
Days.
Yeah, days. It saved us days. You know, we scanned every single copy, and as we were going through our files of, you know, our clips, we were looking at my notes. Good take. Levi was laughing. Somebody forgot their line. Like, we were looking through that and crossing out all the files that were bad and unusable. And we were able to get editing done so much quicker. And we're able to focus on like the tedious things in the editing process instead of going through each file day by day by day. It literally helped us so much. And there it goes to show you that no role is small in the film industry.
Right. And did that surprise you? Did you look back on all that tedious hard work and have an epiphany of change about that experience?
I mean, not really, because when I do my own films, I do that and I see the importance of it. But on a bigger scale film, like what we did was way bigger budget than my films that I do, but it is absolutely important and imperative for, you know, any type of film. And, you know, don't get me wrong, like those days were long and I'm like, man, I don't want to do this. But then, you know, I'm like, you know what, this is so important, even though it may seem small and, you know, insignificant, this plays an important role in the film at some point or time. But it was nice to see that my work paid off because Zach was like, thank you for doing such a good job.
Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned is the spirit on set. Mm-hmm. And we had, you know, in adverse conditions, I've always believed that it's not big wins that bond people, but shared adversity. That, you know, when you go through a tough time together and you kind of help each other through it, that creates some real bonds. There's a young man named Tim on the set who just had the greatest attitude. Many of them did. But I remember Tim in particularly just making sure that everybody had a smile on their face. Even in the toughest kind of moments, I never heard him complain. And everybody else seemed to enjoy what they were doing more because they want to kind of follow his lead.
Yeah.
He was worth his weight in gold. Mm-hmm. So tell me about your films, the kind of things that you've made.
I mean, I kind of just got into, you know, directing short films and stuff about a year and a half ago. And I'm actually in the pre-productions of a short film that I'm planning to submit to the South Georgia Film Festival. And we're starting shooting in December and wrapping in December and finishing it in December. So a little stressed over here, but I'm excited. I love it. Like, I love working under pressure. But right now I've really been into like the indie look, you know, inspirational movies. And I love like mystery and thriller, which is what I'm doing next on my next project. And I'm super excited for it. You know, you go into it thinking you know everything. And then after you're done with it, you're like, man, I knew absolutely nothing. And I think that's my favorite part about, you know, doing my own independent films is I'm learning on set. I'm learning as I go. And, you know, it's awesome. I love it. And I'm excited for my next film that I'm doing. So
you're at the front door. You're in a place where you're kind of a part of everything that's going to be happening in South Georgia in the way of film. And you also have had this experience where you had an intention, you had a direction, things got pushed around and you evolved into it. But at some point in time, you're going to want to make another decision that this is either going to provide you that opportunity or you're going to realize that you need to make a change. Talk to me a little bit about how you feel about that prospect, given all that you've learned about this big shift in your life and how welcome it is now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, change is really good. And it can be really bad, but you can't go throughout life thinking I'm going to make a mistake. You just have to go for it. And I think, when I'm at my next crossroads, I have to know that whatever decision I make, it's either going to be good or it's going to be even greater. I'm not going to go throughout life thinking everything's bad, looking at the negative. I really want to be able to focus on the positive, even if it's not necessarily a decision that, I'm 100% for. Just like, I didn't get into the musical theater. I was not 100% for that, but I trusted in myself, and I trusted that, God has a plan for me. Whether or not I like it at the moment, I'm going to just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
The worst you're going to hear is no. No, and, you just have to trust that, everything happens for a reason.
And you're exhibiting a willingness to deal with the consequences, whatever they are, that you feel equal to that you will meet that either by yourself or with your community that you've built around you. And, you're off to a great start. I really admire it. Brooke, thank you for being on the Crossroad Diner and sharing your ideas with us. And tell us, keep us posted about the December project so that we can kind of know how that's going. And maybe you might want to come back here and debut it here.
Of course. Well, thank you for having me.
We'll have you back, and then you can show us some of your scenes and your outtakes, because those are going to be great.
Yes, those are always better than the actual good takes.
Okay. Brooke, thanks for being on the Crossroad Diner.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us once again in the Crossroad Diner, the place where your spirit goes when it might be time to change direction and you might need a little bit of encouragement. See you next time.